as at the time we are talking, we haven't heard any further invitation from the police.
Right. Is this the first time a state authority is harassing or causing the arrest of one of your own in the performance of their duty?
Yeah, for arrest, I think this is the first time. There have been a number of instances where maybe staff have been threatened or that kind of thing. But to really take the matter to this level of asking the police to come in and asking the staff to write a statement to be granted to it, as far as my memory says, it is the first time.
Now, the police say that he was causing unrest. From where you sit and knowing Mr. Engineer Yafi, would you really say that he was causing unrest by doing his work, disconnecting power? And we all know that this is a national thing that the ECG is doing. So I don't know if you understand what the police meant, because we are confused here. Help us to understand.
But I'm also confused just like you. And frankly, initially, even in our when we were drafting the statement, we wanted to even add the Ghana police, because we find their action also a bit way out of line. Because we don't see how people going about their legitimate work to disconnect customers who are owing will amount to causing public unrest. And even in this particular instance, the national task force that came from Accra was not operating under the ambit of the regional general manager. So if you have anybody to even arrest, it should have been, even if that is worthy of it at all, the right people should have been the task force from Accra, and not Engineer Yafi, who virtually was not part of the active assignment. And then he had to suffer this kind of circumstance. We think it is so unacceptable. And we think the police could also up their game by being more professional and not just quoted to anything that political office holders tell them to do. Yes, if somebody brings a complaint, you are also expected as professionals to be able to read in between the lines and not just follow any kind of complaint. And then you ask people to come and then write statements, and then they have to be given bail. I think it's also unfortunate.
Who is the complainant in this instance?
Well, as far as we know, it's the regional minister, because he was the one who called the engineer. We have said that if they don't reconnect the power, he will call the police, he will bring the police into the matter. And subsequently, the police invited him. So, for as far as we are concerned, he's the one who made that complaint.
Now, the general mood among your organization, PUWU, and I'm sure other labor unions as well, would be that, well, we have been mandated to do our work, but if in doing our work, the police will be forced on us, and then we'll have to be investigated, arrested, and write our statement and all of that, maybe we'll put our pens down. Is that the general mood, or are we getting it wrong around here?
Yeah, there is that tension among the rank and file, and we have been talking to our members. People wanted to even start red banks and sit down and strike and those things, but we have been urging caution that, look, this particular incident, we think we should handle it in a manner that will not escalate and also affect the work that we are doing. We know it is absolutely wrong for any political office holder or anybody exercising some power to go this kind of tangent. We are also talking to our members to reassure them to remain calm whilst we also address this issue at the level that the National Union has done.
Have you tried to reach out to the Ashanti Regional Minister to understand why he did such a thing?
No, we don't think it's even necessary at all. We will not engage in over this. We expected that the position he is holding, he should rather have been the one to come to the defense of ECG workers if Senate are attacking them. But we were not expecting that he, the regional minister, who you have been dealing with the general manager and his team more frequently, you will be the one who will initiate this kind of action. We don't think that it's necessary for us to engage him.
You sound disappointed in the minister.
Well, to say the least.
The regional minister, I remember on 11th of January 2017 when Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo was nominating him at the Jubilee House for endorsement at Parliament so that he could become the regional minister. He was called the big elephant in the room. One, because he understands, according to the president, what happens on the ground. He understands what happens within the party. And he has a good working relationship with everybody else. What is happening, what you're describing to us and what, has pertained, tells a different kind of story. Who are we to believe? You, the presidency, or the people?
Well, I don't speak for the presidency, and I'm not privy to this information you are sharing about the accolades that were lauded on him. But we are talking about an incident which has happened just last Friday. So, as to whatever happened before, whatever he has done in the past or his posturing, we cannot make any comment about that. That we are talking about the actions that have precipitated this situation just last Friday. And we find it very objectionable and most unfortunate.
Do you think that this will discourage Engineer Wiafi and the team that works under him to do their work as it is, or as it were, to the state, as they have been doing in the past?
Oh, naturally, every human being, my brother, as we are talking and you are sitting in your office, if something like this should happen to you, naturally it will have some effect on you. But I'm sure that Engineer Wiafi and the team, as we are also involved trying to make sure that they are not left in the lurch and they are not alone, I'm sure this will also kind of give them the necessary boost to continue doing the good work they are doing.
Mr. Michael Dumata Nyantichi, beyond the yellow letter that we saw, what else is there? What else will PUWU do?
Well, we are still discussing. We haven't taken any decision as yet. We will look at how things unfold.
I thank you very much for your time indeed, sir. It's the General Secretary of PUWU, Michael Idumata Nyantichi, there, expressing his shock and disappointment at the actions of the regional minister. Now, let's go back to January 2017, January 11. What President Akufo-Addo said about Mr. Simon Osei-Mensah, and we've tried to reach out to Mr. Simon Osei-Mensah, the Ashanti Regional Minister, but we have been unsuccessful because his line has not been answered as we speak. If we are able to reach him, I'm sure we can hear his own side of the story as well. Audi Autorem Patem, we believe in that principle and we will push that as well. But let's go back to 2017, 7 years ago, when President Akufo-Addo announced Simon Osei-Mensah. Listen.
And there's always a big elephant in the room. The region which is at the heart, the head and the heart of the new patriotic party. Dynamic region with the people who are very entrepreneurial, very assertive, and at the same time who have a great love of their own culture and traditions. We've seen that recently with the death of the Ashanti and the way in which that funeral has been conducted to the admiration not just of our country, but of the world, of those who care to watch. This year's election went very well for us in the Ashanti region. Of the 47 seats that are there, we now have 44. We won seats there that we had never won before, UAPPS. One of the most articulate communicators in the MPP position in both regional Ashanti affairs as well as national affairs is the man that I've selected to be the regional minister designate for Ashanti. He had a long career in the parliament, member of parliament for Bosomtwe constituency, and I believe that he's ready for the farm. He's a doctor.
So that was what President Akufo-Addo said about Simon Osei-Mensah. Helen, for emphasis' sake, what did the president say?
Well, the president referred to him as an articulate communicator.
Right.
In not only international, but he says national affairs.
And then also the regional matters.
The regional matters. A long-standing member of parliament from Bosomtwe. He referred to him as a big elephant.
Yeah, the big elephant in the room.
Big elephant
he
in
says
the room.
there is always the big elephant in the room.
Big elephant in the room.
That's opposite his height, you know, because Simon Osei-Mensah is cute, you know, so big elephant in the room. That means that he's small, but he's not short of ideas. He's a big guy. And that he has what? He's affable. He relates well with people and all of that.
Yes.
So how did he become what he has become? Because you remember that about a year ago, the school feeding caterers.
That's right.
He spoke down. He talked down at them. And then when, you know, we caught up with him and asked him a day after whether he has changed his mind, this was his position. He says no.
I'm heard this, you know, make a them say caterers are aduane school feeding and did abaho and to me pay by and the first place cry demonstration, you know, unlawful because man could police for money and sign on me demonstration. Number 2, woman see me hokrada and fa woman how cram at home many muda. Timbizam senti no cranny, some woman fee. Na se mumma mabusian for ana nipa bi amono om ye adwuma e wo ha bi no mbebo mama de number tia ni se wom de e ba mo ha mo be kan say and om se antwa yi. So they even wanted to come and apologize formally. Now I'm saying no, me here's idea. So I went back to continue with the meeting that I was having. Ti be san ko ye me meeting, you know. And om ye say om the petition ba. Now I'm smart my personal assistant to go and receive the petition. So that's what happened. What they did, I don't like it. And I've said a million times that I will not entertain illegality. I'm not here to pamper people to do illegality. No. How? Obiya ni yame kranke be me ya. Se me di me sika koye dwuma no aduane amankola di ama ban. Se majumase. Na ye ntua meka. Me kura be ye me ya. But what I want you to know is me dey say how ni nyina chi no emra and ye di adwuma ye di mra no control your life your brabo enti ye ni so wono ani so a ekina so ni so illegality there eni ma brabo the petition itself no cry and enyam ya media a president and no address the petition be yaji ye say the follow up ye the come president asem owo no obeyi o man
nti one dey was say your ma enfam.
So he will not condone illegality. That's what the man said, right? And that what they did was illegal and he won't condone illegality. So if you owe ECG and ECG has given you notice and ECG now sends people to come and disconnect power and you stop them from disconnecting power, is that legal or illegal?
That doesn't seem very legal to me at all. The ECG is merely carrying out their mandate. This is power consumed.
Right.
The power has been consumed. Somebody has to pay for it.
That's right.
Simple and short.
That's right.
Simple and short. The shortfalls in the power sector are from things like this. This is no small amount. 600,000 cedis that needs to be paid.
Yeah.
Somebody has to pay for it.
Pay for it. And you know, the posture of the minister is shocking to me because, and I'll go into a trend where state seems not to be doing business with state. This is a minister of the government. He's the head of the Security Council. ECG technically should be running to him for help if customers
That's right.
are harassing ECG. It turns out that he, who is supposed to be preserving the state's property, including ECG, is now harassing the state. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So state is not doing business with state. Because you owe. If I owed 600,000 Ghana cedis, I couldn't have called the police to say, arrest the engineer Biafi because he's coming to do his lawful duty of disconnecting me for owing.
That's right.
Beyond a certain threshold. And if we all receive our bills, for those who use postpaid meters, sorry, ECG will tell you that pay at once if you cross a certain threshold.
That's right.
If you haven't, they'll say pay by.
That's
then
right.
they give you a date. So for 600,000, I'm sure they have crossed the pay at once date. Sorry, this is my voice. It's still not back. How is it that the regional minister is now the one preventing ECG from doing its lawful duty? How?
I mean, it beats the imagination.
And you know, I have been doing some work. This state working against the state. You know, in the past, all state vehicles, right, would have, of state-owned enterprises, etc., would have their vehicles insured with state insurance company.
Correct.
Today, I just randomly pick the car numbers of state vehicles. So maybe GEOC, maybe Ghana Maritime Authority, maybe Valco. I just pick, you know, there's a USSD code
That's
to check.
right. It'll tell
what
you
their insurance, which
yes.
company they are insured with.
Correct.
And you check and you find that it's not SIC.
Who are they insured with?
No, any of the
Any
privates.
of them.
And you go behind those who own those private
That's
companies.
why I was asking. Is there one that seems to be cropping up when you check it quite prominently?
It crops up, but I'm saying that largely they are not insuring with SIC, which is why SIC is on the verge of collapse. So the state is not doing business with the state. And that is what Simon Osemensa has just shown us. That yes, if Helen Apiampofo owes ECG, we can get the police and the task force to come forcefully and disconnect no matter what explanations she gives. But if it is the state that owes and you step in and there's a big man there, even Parliament was disconnected. Hello?
Correct. People were even stuck in the elevator and all sorts because of this.
But you know why Simon Osemensa will not allow that disconnection to happen? He will not allow that disconnection to happen because Mr. Simon Osemensa knows that if the university is disconnected, the numbers of people there, students who will start talking about doomsaw and the negative effect it will have. So he's thinking on the elections, about the elections, along with the party's dream of winning the elections and breaking the 8, and not necessarily about getting money. We are introducing a new tax under Boga tax.
Yeah.
There's 600,000 cedis, and plus other state institutions that owe. If we're able to collect these monies, we won't have to introduce a new tax. We won't.
Because we are scrambling for money, just trying to find money, taxing
and this is from
everywhere.
Post-paid meters. What about those of us who do prepaid meters and have paid our monies and are not getting the light? Can we also walk to Simon Osemensa's office and ask the Zongo police to go and catch him? It doesn't make sense. The impunity is becoming one too many. And it is because, for me, I get disappointed and surprised at the same time because the tradition in power now, they were the ones that made the most noise about injustice, culture of impunity, insensitivity, harassment, blah, blah. You remember? The
100%.
MPP tradition, Rawlings has his excesses. That's fine. People who were with Rawlings had their excesses. That's fine. But they literally demonized the whole thing and said that we are a proper, better alternative, and under us, when there's democracy, everybody will do their work. Tell me what the crime of Engineer Yafi was.
Doing his work. Doing his legally mandated work.
And what was Osei Mensah's business in him doing his work? How is that different from what happened? And this happened in a democracy. How is that different from what happened back then under a military rule where you be there in your home, somebody just knock, four soldiers, they come, they pick you and they take you away. How different is that? Or somebody sits somewhere, makes a call and say, go and bring Helen, they bring you. You don't know what you have done.
You can't even ask questions.
You can't ask questions, nobody tells you anything. How different is it? They were just complaining then because they were not the ones perpetrating those things. And they were not the ones who had the power. They were the powerless at the time. Now with the benefit of power, you can see the crop of people they are. Mind you, it is the same regional minister who ordered the soldiers to go to Ijura to go and kill the people. You remember Macho Kaka and the others? You remember the Ijura thing?
Yeah.
It's the same minister. It's the same minister. The same minister. Simon Osemensa talks down at school feeding caterers, sends soldiers to Ijura to go and do. Is this same minister who got somebody arrested in the Ashanti region for drying cocoa on parts of the streets? You remember?
I recall.
So his whole attitude is a commando kind of leadership. But the president said he's what communicator?
Said articulate communicator.
Articulate communicator. He works very well with people. He's the big elephant in the room, blah, blah, blah. He works with the people. He understands that the culture, the tradition, blah, 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 blah. Is this what? And he has been there for 8 years. So the party is happy with him. Like that. And nobody has called him to order, even when he talked down at school feeding caterers. And school feeding caterers, for the benefit of those who don't know, largely are party women organizers.
That is true.
Party people. He talked down at them. If the presidency has not found it worthy to call him to reprimand him, the chief of staff, who is his supervisor, has not asked him questions. At least we don't know publicly.
In fact, when we listened to that clip that you played concerning the school feeding caterers, the posturing was even as though the school feeding caterers offended him. Because he said, they even tried to come and apologize because of the intimidation tactics. Yes. He was talking about them with contempt, that they didn't ask for any permission to demonstrate. He doesn't like illegality.
If we can be in a meeting where I'm telling you that, look, you owe so much, we have to disconnect you. And then you say I shouldn't disconnect. I say, boss, I have been given instruction from Accra that there's a national task force that is happening. And so I should be disconnected. You say, no, if you disconnect, you see. Then I say, okay, please, I have to do my work. I disconnect, and the next thing is you call the police, and the police call me sheepishly to say I should come. I say, I'll come the next morning. And now I am under investigation for doing my work. Not for stealing Sputnik V money. Not for doing Sputnik V Chobo. Not for engaging in PDS, ROPT, SML, whatever it is. Not for engaging in any of those. For doing my work. How do you empower civil servants to do a clean job without being intimidated? How many civil servants will even have the heart to say that, look, if they invite me to the police station, I will go and write my statement and nothing will happen?
You dare not.
How sure are they that, look, if I go, nothing will happen? And you see, PUWU has written. That's how come we got to hear about this. We would never have heard about it. So now the question is, how many people have gone through such situations?
John, it's interesting you mentioned civil servants. In this just ended Maslock trial that has seen the former Maslock boss jailed for 10 years, the judge in question, Justice Ifyasewa Asari-Botwe, in her judgment was admonishing civil servants to not let politicians interfere with their work. But look at the intimidation that follows if you don't do the bidding of the politicians. So that advice or admonishment is in the right vein. But is it as easier said than that? Be strong.
Easier said than done. Easier said than done, because you see, the politicians know their place, and most of the civil servants, they like opening doors too many times, knocking on doors to ask for favors, and they behave as if they don't know their value and their worth. The politician will be there for only 4 years old. You have signed a deal with the people of Ghana to be there forever until your retirement is due. So how do you allow somebody who just comes in for 4 years to mess up your whole career that you have built over 20 years? How? And then when it's time for you to go to jail, you go alone.
That's right. Your name is all over the paperwork as having approved this and signed this off and allowed XYZ when you knew better.
There's something fundamentally wrong that we have to fix in this country. Simon Osei Mensah is one of them.
You say we have to fix him?
Yes. Somebody has to tell him that, boss, we appreciate your passion and your zeal and your energy. But if you look at how you have conducted yourself, and there's ample proof and evidence, you are not helped, because what he's doing, people who may not be MPP, but are sympathetic towards the MPP, and may be connected to Engineer Wiafe, because of this, they would have a change of their mind.
That's right.
People who are school feeding caterers, who may not necessarily be MPP, or who work with school feeding caterers who are MPP, and they may be beginning to get convinced that, oh, let me choose MPP. The way you spoke to their bosses, and the fact that the bosses don't have money enough to take care of them, and they are starving with their families and dependents, they will change their minds. So, consistently, the people in Ejura who lost their people because they know it was the regional minister who ordered, I shot the sheriff, but I didn't shoot the deputy. And nothing has happened to him. They'll say, okay, these people, they don't care about us. So gradually, you are eroding the gains made. Gradually. And I tell you, go back to the 2020 elections. There are seats that are traditionally that of the NPP and NDC. Aswanse, I think that was just about their only one. Now, in the Ashanti region, out of the 47, I think NDC has 2 or 3. So they are making inroads.
That's right.
It's like the MPP winning a seat in the Volta region. It tells a story.
It does.
That the people now are not just being, okay, we live in Ashanti, we live in Volta, we are voting for NDC or MPP. But they are now beginning to think, if I give the power to this person, how would he treat me? If I give the power to this person, what opportunities do I get? If I give the power to this person, how different would my life be? They'll be asking questions. And one of the questions they'll be asking will be to remember what the KPI of Mr. Simon Osei Mensah was in 2017 when the president sent him to the Ashanti region, and how he has distinguished himself in terms of achieving his KPI and his job description. So where is his supervisor's report? We would have had that supervisor's report because in the first term of President Akufo-Addo, we had a whole ministry for monitoring and evaluation.
That's right.
Which was supervised and spearheaded by the late Osei Akutu, Dr. Osei Akutu of Otafo constituency. He's gone. But we had a ministry like that. That ministry was scrapped. But perhaps if we had that ministry, somebody would have sat in there and said, okay, regional minister, you're supposed to do A, B, C, D. Regional minister, you're supposed to be relate to the people in back. Regional minister is supposed to back. And then we can look at it. It is under Simon Osei Mensah's watch that 2 national security coordinators were pushed down the stairs by vigilantes.
That's right.
Under his watch.
That's right.
I can go on and on and on and on. So is it just about the post?
But Johnny, I blame us as well as a people, because have we fully wrapped our minds around the fact that this is a job of servitude?
No.
It's too much, yes, boss, yes, sir, honorable, yes, boss, yes, sir, honorable, yes, sir. But we don't tell them to their face, hey, Masa, this job you are doing, you're not doing us a favor.
Yeah.
We make you comfortable so that you can carry out your duties. That lack of empathy, we're not entering a new year with it at all.
Oh, no.
So that school feeding caterers come to you and you don't address the root of their problem, that you are owing them for months. The kids have a quality of food that you wouldn't even give to, excuse my language, your dog to eat. Instead of applying that empathy, you said this is illegal. I don't like certain things. Don't come to my office making noise.
That statement was made the day after.
Look at this.
On the day when the school feeding caterers went to picket, he was standing on the first floor.
He just waved them off.
Like modern day King Pharaoh, talking down at the Israelites. He didn't come down. He threw his hands at them and went back into his office and left them standing there.
Is that a mark of leadership?
So that is why I'm saying that if Mr. Samuel Mensah had, and this is nothing personal, but if Mr. Samuel Mensah had a supervisor who is not afraid of him, who can look him in the eyes and tell him that, boss, we near try, right? You have crossed the threshold. Please put yourself back in check. If somebody who can confidently look him in the eye and say that to him, I'm sure he wouldn't have continued. But there's nobody in the government that can look him in the eye and tell him.
Oh, no.
Nobody. Nobody that can look him in the eye and tell him. So he would continue to do those things. Nobody. So he would do that. Boss, Abiam, Motro Mojo, let it play.